Now, everyone, please come with us and help us to welcome a very special guest from the state of Qatar, Dr. Imee Acosta. Today, he will be presenting about mentoring students to avoid plagiarism. So, everyone, please welcome. Thank you.
Academic integrity is doing what is right, even when it is difficult. Good afternoon, everyone. It is truly a privilege to be a part of Cambodia's first international online conference on mentoring educators. I am here today to talk about mentoring students to avoid plagiarism. My name is Imee Acosta, and these are my affiliations. I am affiliated with Virginia Commonwealth University, School of the Arts in Qatar. I am the bookstore manager responsible for university academic resources. I am also one of the managing partners of Sigma for Educational Consultancies, responsible for international linkages. I am also an adjunct instructor of Philippine Christian University Transnational Education through EPM and Associates, Dubai, UAE. You will also find here my emails in case a future collaboration between you and my organizations will occur. Here is the outline of my talk today. To properly understand mentoring students to avoid plagiarism, let us start with defining the problem. Then, second, identify the student's perception of such misconduct and look for workable solutions to avoid plagiarism. The problem of plagiarism has repeatedly become an issue among students. Now the question is, what push students to plagiarize and how to guide them to avoid such behavior? It is important because plagiarism is synonymous with fraudulent and damaging behavior. It is a serious academic misconduct that is detrimental to the researcher's credibility, academic integrity, and the scientific process. Central to this issue is to understand the reasons why students commit such behavior. So, a literature review was conducted to look into the reasons why students commit plagiarism, what is their perception about the behavior, and how mentors can help them to avoid plagiarism. The goals are to define plagiarism, to look into the reasons why students commit such behavior, identify the types of plagiarism, and explore workable solutions to avoid such academic misconduct. What are students' perceptions of plagiarism? First and foremost, we need to define the term. What is plagiarism? Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary defines plagiarism as literary theft, passing off other ideas as own, using other ideas without crediting the source, and presenting an original idea derived from other source. Other authors define plagiarism as taking ownership of the ideas, words, and work of others without the intention of recognizing the main source. Some researchers define plagiarism as paraphrasing, improper citation, direct copy from source, appropriating others' work as own, and deception. So, how do students perceive plagiarism? Gulliver and Tyson from Charles Sturt University in New South Wales, Australia, conducted a study to determine the students' perception on plagiarism. The result of the study came up with 6 themes related to how students perceive it. First is confusion. Students were confused as to what behaviors constitute plagiarism. Second, fear. Students feared the possibility of committing unintentional plagiarism because they lack idea on what is plagiarism. Third, sanctions. Students perceive sanctions on plagiarism as comparable to sanctions against a criminal activity. Fourth, seriousness. Students perceive seriousness on the penalties of plagiarism as too severe. Fifth, resentment. Students perceive plagiarism as academic form of helplessness that decrease a student's confidence to write academic paper. And lastly, consequences. Students' level of anxiety and resentment increase due to lack of clear definition of plagiarism. So the question is, why do students plagiarize? There are several factors associated to this question. We have environment peer pressure. This is the belief that plagiarism is the new norm and it is an acceptable behavior. So students commit plagiarism because everyone is doing it. And also, they have the desire to help a friend. Then there are also factors related to learning process focus, such as their desire for higher grades, poor time management, poor study habits. There are also individual focus factors, which are related to laziness, dishonesty, because students have never been caught, and if caught, the punishment is light. And there are also other reasons, such as lack of concrete understanding of plagiarism, they lack the skills to write, deficiency in institutional guidance and policies on plagiarism, and the lack of understanding of how to avoid it. At some point in a student's life, they commit plagiarism intentionally or unintentionally. Intentional plagiarism is claiming ownership of another people's work without the intention of citing the original source. In this type of plagiarism, the student is aware of what behaviors constitute plagiarism. Unintentional plagiarism could be attributed to poor writing skills, lack of guidance in writing, and insufficient knowledge about plagiarism. To fully understand plagiarism, it is likewise important to know the types of plagiarism. There are several typologies of plagiarism that students and mentors should understand. First, we have copy paste. This is the most common type of plagiarism being practiced today due to the advent of technology. Students can easily copy a text, a phrase, or a paragraph directly from the internet and paste it to their own work and claim as their own. Second, verbatim plagiarism. This is a word for word plagiarism claimed as own without citation. Third, source plagiarism. This is using the references of previous articles without cross referencing. Fourth, mosaic plagiarism. This is using synonyms to rewrite an original text without citation. Then self-plagiarism. This is presenting a previously published article as new. Then ghostwriting, giving credit to someone who has not contributed to the article. Then there is clone. This is a word perfect copy of another person's work without due acknowledgement of the source. Control C. This is copying almost all text from the same source without alterations. Then there is retweet. This includes proper citation but retains majority of the text from original source. Then we have error 404. This is providing inaccurate citations. Aggregator. This is the use of proper citation but contains nothing of own work. Then find replace. This uses synonyms or sometimes capitalization or rearranging words in a sentence but retains the essential context. Remix. Putting together paraphrased text from various sources. Sometimes the plagiarist could cite the source, sometimes the plagiarist would not cite the source. Recycle. This is reusing owns previously published work. Hybrid. This is combining perfectly cited sources with copied passages without citation. And mash up, putting together copied text from multiple sources without citation. Knowing the typologies of plagiarism is very important because this could guide teachers and students on how to prevent plagiarism. So, to avoid plagiarism, it is important that first, plagiarism must be defined. Students' perception on plagiarism should be looked into, and then the reasons why they do such behavior should be considered as well. And then from that, strategies to avoid plagiarism can already be formulated. So, avoiding plagiarism is a collective effort among the academic institutions, the teachers, and the students. The role of the academic institution is to provide a clear definition of plagiarism and the corresponding sanctions of such action should be put in place through a formal policy to handle the problem effectively. Then, it should be incorporated in the curriculum and the syllabus, the teaching of best practices to avoid plagiarism, such as definition of plagiarism, the art of paraphrasing, writing academic papers correctly, and proper citation techniques. And educational institutions should also endeavor to be equipped with plagiarism detection software as additional prevention measures of plagiarism. What about the teachers? The teachers here have very important roles to play. It is the role of the teachers to help students understand the negative impact of plagiarism on their skills and competencies. Teachers should create an atmosphere of trust between the teachers and the students by clearly defining what behaviors are considered plagiarism and what behaviors are not. Then, third, the teacher should provide performance feedback after reviewing a student's written work or written project and should provide examples of plagiarized passages when found in a student's work. And then, fourth, teachers should provide more guidance on academic writing, should teach students how to do proper citation and allow them to practice source documentation. And then teachers should also give access to the students to clear policies about plagiarism and guidance for the sanctions of committing such behavior. And then students should be provided the opportunities to speak about problems and difficulties encountered when doing written works, and there should be open discussions about plagiarism prevention. And then there should be proper requirements for written assignments, and this should include criteria for originality and creativity. Then the use of plagiarism detection tools should be made available to both the teachers and the students. The students as well has roles to play. Students need to discover their own version of writing through constant practice. Students should avoid writing hurriedly, for haste makes waste. And students should enhance their vocabulary to be able to write in their own words, and they should not forget to acknowledge the original source of the cited articles. Students should strictly adhere to the guidelines set by the faculty and university. They should seek help from their teachers or professors when in doubt or have encountered writing problems. And of course, they should observe proper time management and practice study habits. So, therefore, this literature review on mentoring students to avoid plagiarism is particularly helpful, especially for novice researchers and teachers alike, to proliferate plagiarism awareness and its prevention. To prevent plagiarism, schools, teachers, and students must create a strong sense of collective responsibility to prevent academic dishonesty and alleviate academic integrity. Therefore, the goal of educating students to understand and avoid plagiarism is not only to reduce incidents of plagiarism, but as well as to increase student learning. That's all. Thank you very much.